You know, every time you fill up your car, you're actually at the very end of this massive global journey. The fuel you pump has traveled thousands of kilometers and gone through this incredible transformation, all for that one moment.
So, how does that all happen? Well, that's exactly the question we're going to dive into right now. We're going to follow the entire story from a raw resource deep underground all the way to your local fuel pump. All right, so our story actually starts, well, it's not in a factory and it's not on a ship. It begins millions and millions of years ago, deep beneath the surface of the Earth. This is where our modern fuel gets its ancient start. So what even is crude oil? At its heart, it's a fossil fuel. You can almost think of it as liquid history, really. It's the super concentrated remains of ancient marine life, we're talking algae and plankton, that have been cooked under insane heat and pressure for millions of years. And finding this stuff, it's basically a high-tech treasure hunt, seriously. Geologists use these things called seismic surveys, which is a fancy way of saying they send sound waves deep into the earth to map out what's down there. Once they pinpoint a good spot, the drilling starts. And this happens all over, from pump jacks on land to these absolutely massive offshore platforms that are pretty much cities out on the ocean. But here's the thing you've got to remember. The stuff that comes out of the ground, it is not petrol. Not even close. It's raw, unrefined crude oil. And in this state, it's thick, it's messy, and it's totally useless for a modern car engine. Its incredible journey has really only just begun. Okay, so we've got the oil out of the ground. What's next? Well, now it has to get to a refinery. And that trip, it's a global one. Welcome to what you might call the crude oil superhighway. So once it's pumped up, the crude embarks on this global voyage. It's a huge logistical operation, relying on a whole mix of methods. We're talking continent-spanning pipelines, tanker trucks for shorter hauls, and of course, those gigantic oil tankers that cross entire oceans. And when I say gigantic, I mean the scale here is just mind-boggling. We're talking about super tankers that are as long as 4 football fields. Think about that. Just one of these ships can haul over 2 million barrels of crude oil in a single go. These things are the absolute backbone of the global energy market. Okay, so after that incredibly long journey, the crude oil finally makes it to its destination. And this is where the real magic happens. Inside the refinery. And you know, this really is the heart of the whole process. The refinery is where this raw, black, unusable gunk gets meticulously engineered into the high-performance fuel we all know as petrol. So how do they do it? Well, you can think of it like a recipe with 3 main steps. First up is distillation. They heat the crude oil in this huge tower, right? And because different parts of the oil have different boiling points, they separate out. This gives us not just petrol, but also things like jet fuel, diesel, even the bitumen used to pave roads. Then you have processes like cracking, which, literally cracks big, heavy molecules into smaller, more valuable ones. And finally, everything comes together in the blending stage. And don't overlook that final blending step, because it's absolutely critical. They add very specific additives, things that make your engine run more efficiently, detergents that actually clean the engine parts, and stuff to reduce wear and tear. And super importantly, these additives make sure the final fuel meets all the strict government and environmental rules. All right, so now we have it. Finished, high-quality petrol, but it's still sitting at the refinery. So let's cover the final leg of the journey, getting it to your local fuel station. And that huge logistics network just kicks right back into gear. The finished petrol gets moved, again by pipeline, ship, or truck, to regional storage terminals. And from there, those familiar tanker trucks you see on the highway make the final delivery, filling up the underground tanks at your neighborhood station, just waiting for you to pull up. So there you have it, the whole incredible, complex journey. But to really get the big picture, we kind of need to zoom out and think about petrol's wider role. You know, its legacy, and what the future might look like. And this really shows you the 2 sides of the coin, doesn't it? On one hand, there's no denying that petrol has powered global development for more than 100 years. But on the other hand, we all know that burning it releases carbon dioxide, a major driver of climate change. And that fundamental tension, that's what's pushing this huge shift we're seeing toward cleaner alternatives, like electric vehicles and renewable energy. And this really gets to the heart of it all. The way we get our energy is definitely changing. There's no doubt about that.
But understanding this incredible journey from, ancient sea creatures to a high-tech liquid in your tank helps us appreciate both the huge value it's provided and the very real impact it has on our world. So yeah, next time you find yourself at the pump, maybe you'll think about that whole story. An incredible saga of geology, engineering, and logistics. And it really leaves us with a big, important question to chew on. If petrol was the field that defined the last century, what's going to define the next?